Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Brand Rewind Live. We wish we didn't have to be here to do the special edition, but here we are. You may have heard, read about the horrific events out of Texas earlier this week. It comes nearly 10 years after the Sandy Hook massacre in Connecticut, where 29 people were killed, 29, most of whom were young children, young kindergartners. 10 years this December. What's happened since then? So, we are going to dive into that during this special edition of Brand Rewind Live. We welcome your comments, your questions. This is a completely unscripted show. We really do want to share. Each of us, Zoe, Patia, um, and Barika, and I are parents, but you don't have to be a parent to feel
Right.
what the pain and the hurt and the devastation that has rocked, devastated so many families around the country, specifically in Texas.
Right. Absolutely. Yes, and so again, I think it's okay for all of us to acknowledge that we are not okay. This is really very heavy. And several people have been speaking up. People always speak up. It's so frustrating because we speak up, we pray, we post things, and then 10 years later, here we are. But the person I think this time around that really resonated with me was Steve Kerr. So let's take a look at his reaction.
I'm not going to talk about basketball. Nothing's happened with our team in the last 6 hours. We're going to start the same way tonight. Any basketball questions don't matter. Um, since we left shoot around, 14 children were killed 400 miles from here, and a teacher. And in the last 10 days, we've had elderly Black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California, and now we have children murdered at school. When are we going to do something?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of people asking that question, Patia.
Yeah.
When are we going to do something?
Yeah. I mean, I just think that it's unfortunate that yes, it's been back to back to back where we've had the incidents in Buffalo, the incident in California, and now the incident in Texas. And he's right. I mean, that's why we decided to have a special edition just to sit and talk about this because when are we going to do something? And it's not just something that I believe we can leave to our politicians anymore because nothing's happened. And in 10 years, as you said, Denise, we're still here.
We're still, yeah, we're still here. Yeah, with kids probably afraid to go to school themselves, parents afraid to send their kids to school, not just school, as Steve Kerr mentioned, grocery stores. We've all seen grocery stores,
Yep.
churches. I mean, there is no place that seems safe.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, there isn't. I mean, there's church, the subway shootings, like
Mhm.
going to a concert, like, being in elementary school, like no places honestly has been a safe haven for this,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And I think it's up to us to do something about it because what we've been doing hasn't been
It's
working.
not working at all.
It's not working at all. So more of the same, more of the same thoughts and these prayers, they're not panning out with anything.
And to give a little bit of context, a lot of this we're talking about right now is about gun control. So the last two incidences that we're talking about, the shooting 10 days ago in the Tops grocery store, was a gun, an assault rifle. Let's not call it a gun, an assault rifle purchased by an 18-year-old.
Right.
This other one that happened 3 days after his birthday, he also purchased assault rifles. So
Right.
the question becomes, as we're talking about, what are we doing about it? Why are 18-year-olds allowed to legally go and
Right.
purchase guns? What does that say about us as a community, as a society? when we allow these things to happen, because that's exactly what it seems like or feels like, that we've somehow almost lost control.
Yeah.
Right.
It does, and we want to make sure that folks watching this, and of course, with even with our own families, let's figure out. I mean, what can we do?
Mhm.
What are some of the steps? We're not elected officials, and none of us is an elected official. We can't pick up the phone and call President Biden and say, "What are you doing?" We can't
Right.
call Joe Manchin and say, "Hey, stop," whatever. I mean, and when we set this show up, right? We all decided that we were not going to make this a political show.
Right. Right. It's not.
Absolutely.
Stay
Yep.
away from religion and politics. What do they say about that, right? Stay away.
Right.
And that's what we swore that we were going to do. This obviously transcends politics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just does.
I mean, Denise, I even had to look. I know we don't do politics, but I even had to take some time to look. I wanted to know what was the response. Like, who besides like Mr. Kerr is going to say something? And of course, we do have our president, our vice president, like they all spoke out and all are putting out publications, press releases, and statements about it. But at the end of the day, I think the real change is going to have to come with legislation looking at what are we doing with these assault rifles? Like who really needs them?
Right.
Why is an 18-year-old allowed? And it's not a matter to me, I think, of the Second Amendment. I don't think we're infringing on anybody's Second Amendment to say, maybe you shouldn't have a assault rifle at the age of 18 or 21. Like, maybe you
Right.
shouldn't have an assault rifle if you have a criminal background or
Mhm.
if you've been in, mental institutions.
Mental illness. Yes.
Maybe there should be criteria around who can do that.
Right. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. Because if you're not a member of law enforcement, why do you need
Why do you need it?
power, that firepower? Yeah.
So at 18, you can't legally drink, but you can
No.
buy an assault rifle.
Right.
It's just really ridiculous.
Mhm.
Why? Why?
Exactly. And I have to agree with this comment that we have. Push the politicians to do more in regards to gun control.
Yeah.
Yes, but how like
No.
What do we do?
Right. Write
How
a
do
letter.
you do
Write
that?
letters.
yeah,
How do
letters.
you do that?
Well, one of the
letters.
things Coach
Go ahead.
Kerr brought up was the fact that my understanding is 90% of Americans want background checks.
Yeah.
Yet,
Yeah.
politicians, what are we doing?
Yeah. I
If
think
this is
it's
what Americans want, why
And why
isn't it
isn't
coming
it
into
happening?
play?
Right.
Yeah, and it comes down to power, money, but enough is enough.
Well, obviously, somebody's special interest is getting is paying for this window to be held open so that it doesn't require anyone to have like a background check. But you know what I find interesting, ladies, is that it's so easy to take away abortion, and it's so easy to make sure that women have these children because we want to make sure that we protect life, even if it's not if it has a heartbeat. But the ones that have a heartbeat, we don't care about them if they die. And I have to say that I did find today that guns are now the number one, gun violence is the number one way children and teens are being killed now.
Ooh,
Number one.
oh
It's
my
a
goodness.
public health epidemic.
the
Is
crisis.
what they classified it.
Sure. Yeah, I see that. Brika. Guns are the leading cause of death among American children and teens. 1 out of 10 gun deaths are aged 19 and younger.
Oh
That
my
is
God.
crazy.
And here's another one. Each day, 12 children die from gun violence in America. Another 32 are shot and injured.
Oh my God. Every day?
Every day.
Every day. So we're talking about what can be done. So one of the things that I remember, one of my clients a couple years ago was a school, elementary school. No, old. I think it was a middle school. Still, you had to get buzzed in to get in.
Right.
The doors were locked. So I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. Like you guys, I have a lot of papers here, and I've been doing a lot of research on this.
Mhm.
And I know that security and locked doors is one of the items, discussion points that are happening within school districts across the country. I don't understand why not. It just seems so obvious to me that you would have to be buzzed in. Am I missing
I
something?
think it depends on the part of the country that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right?
Mm.
Because, at one point, I'm not sure if this is what's going on, but in the public schools, when I was in high school in New York City, not my school particularly, but there were certain schools that had metal detectors, like, right?
Mm.
I mean, it seems ridiculous, but the end
Yeah.
result was that nobody was going to school with a gun or somebody was not coming through. And there were literally police officers that were stationed at schools to
Yeah.
prevent anything from happening. And then, of course, depending on the kind of school you're in, like in the private schools, you definitely still have to be buzzed in.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the, because if you notice, this only happens in certain parts of the country, certain areas. So there's definitely open access in these places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe the first step towards changing this is making sure that everywhere where children are going to school, that somebody can't just walk onto the school grounds, walk into the school building, and do as they please. Like that's a first. I think that is a easy to implement first step.
I would
Yeah.
think. I would think.
I would
I have
think.
to say, as a Canadian on the outside, it sounds very sad that
I
we
mean,
have to lock
Yep.
ourselves into schools to be safe.
but does
Yes,
that do you
it
guys
is.
have that in Canada? Like, are
So
the school?
private schools, you do have to get
Buzzing.
access. You have to buzz in. Um, I don't recall any. I'm just outside of Toronto, and I don't recall Toronto schools. I know there is security in some schools, and there is additional checks in some schools for monitoring. I don't recall any. There could be, so someone from Toronto can correct me. Having to get buzzed in.
Mm. Mm.
Mm.
I don't. I
But as
mean,
I hear it, I viscerally am just like, we're
Yes.
losing
but
our innocence.
but here's the
I
thing.
get it, but it's like, oh,
But you don't have your front door open for people just to walk in at all hours of the night.
I will
Right?
remain quiet.
I mean, most people don't have their
Right.
No,
doors
no.
Depends on where
open,
you
to
live.
walk in.
Yeah.
So why would we have? I don't know. I guess I'm just missing that. Why would we not have buzzers to have people need to be buzzed in to get to schools? I don't know. It's been my kids are in their 20s, so it's been a long
Mhm.
time that I've had to have this day to day, in and out of an
Mhm.
elementary school. But it just seems to me we talk about what can we do, what can we push our communities, our school districts, our politicians to do. That seems to be one of the I don't know, most obvious
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
responses to
Right.
this.
But that's going to cost tax dollars. That's going to cost, like money. And not all schools can afford to like create the measures that could do that,
Yeah,
honestly. And without, and that's more of us going to our senators and our representatives and saying, "Hey, we need money to protect our kids because
Right.
obviously this is not working."
right.
And if that means that we have to pay something more, then it might be time to do that because what we've been doing is
It's
still
not
Isn't
not
working.
working.
It's
working.
not at all. It's not.
No.
It's not.
And
Yeah,
yeah, I have to say, yeah, my heart goes out to all the victims as well. Like
Mhm.
we do have an image. I think maybe we can pull that up of some of the kids that were a
Yeah.
part of that
Mm.
horrific incident.
awful.
Babies.
Mhm.
Babies, 19 babies, 19 innocent kids gunned down, and two teachers gunned down inside what should have been a safe haven, just full of laughter and excitement to learn and grow and develop into adults, thriving, happy adults. A couple of from what I read, and you guys probably read it as well, I think one of the little girls had just gotten an award, honor
Yeah.
roll
Mm.
That
award
morning.
that morning. But to listen to the stories that are on television, putting a background, a personality to the faces and the names
Yeah.
we're hearing is just gut wrenching.
Heartbreaking. It
It's
Mhm.
really is. It really is.
and then we were talking before the show about the father who
The
died.
father.
Right. Patia was, updating us.
Yes, so unfortunately, the husband of one of the teachers that lost her life has also suffered a fatal heart attack. And definitely the experience of losing his wife in the way that he did They're saying this is what pretty much caused this. And the
Mm,
end result is that there are now, I think, four young children who have become orphans in the span of a couple days.
mm. Yeah, it's just that it just keeps getting worse. It really does. It just keeps getting worse.
And
Uh,
it's like one senseless act has so many
Such a
tragic.
domino effect.
It's a
It's like,
domino effect. Yeah.
you know,
So I really think that when you're saying like the Sandy Hook, like what did we learn from that? Like what were the things that we learned out of all of these different shootings? Like I feel like, we look back at that moment 10 years ago and it's just kind of like, did we take away nothing from that incident and how it felt, other than the fact that, thoughts and prayers is a thing to say when something like this
right,
tragic
right,
happens, and then
right.
we'll forget about it and then we'll move on and something else will happen.
yeah,
Exactly. And it's very embarrassing. It's sad and it's embarrassing because I saw an image on social media that showed that it's not that this doesn't happen other places in the world, but they respond almost immediately. And it
Yes.
was a carousel post that showed when this happened in England, this is what they did. When this happened in Australia, this is
Mm.
what they did. All the places around the world where this has happened, it's only happened once or twice. They're not
mm,
having these conversations every month or every week or 10 years later. So what is it? Like, why can't we address this issue?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, if I can be frank, I think it's the corruption. Like, it's just too much money. The money is the main issue because the politicians are not working on both sides, are not working for people. If 90% of the American people
And
are saying
people,
they want
exactly.
this, and you're like, nah, I don't think that that needs to be done. Maybe we can just say thoughts and prayers and then forget about it, and then we'll go on and talk about this other thing. It's the same reason why we don't have baby formula right now.
Right.
Like
yeah.
there's so much corruption in the system that we can't get anything accomplished.
No, I
And when
agree.
people try to, they can't because the corrupt people are kind of standing in the way of that.
No,
Right.
I don't disagree. I want to correct myself. I said earlier 29 people in Newtown, Connecticut. Sandy Hook is actually 26 people as I see my notes. But here's another statistic that so we're talking about gun violence. 68% of guns used and about 68% of gun related incidents at schools were taken from the home, a friend, or a relative.
Hmm.
So most of the guns that are being used to kill these kids and others in schools, because not just kids, administrators and teachers and other
Right.
staff at the schools are coming from the
Oh.
home or a friend or relative. So when we talk about what can be done, yes, I agree that our political elected officials are a big part of this, but they're not the whole.
Oh,
Yeah,
exactly.
you're
Right.
right. You're
Right.
right.
We
Yeah.
individuals, families, parents, people have to bear some of this responsibility. I mean, not to be political because we say we don't, although we are talking about it. But Beto O'Rourke in Texas, you guys saw that
Yeah.
video of him speaking and stopping the press conference from Governor Abbott in Texas. And one of the things he said that resonated with me, which was so sad on so many levels, he said, "This is on us. This is on us." And he's right. I mean, we some of these things we can't, point to other people.
Right.
Some of this is when we say us, generally speaking, this is
Mhm.
on us.
Right.
You know,
I mean, I feel like you're right. Like we do spend a lot of time because we feel like there's an area that our elected officials have a part to play. But yeah, if you have guns like this, and maybe you do go out and you do hunt, but you have to lock your gun up. You need to put it in a place where nobody can access it. You can't just leave it out and make it easy for people to access it, for children to access it.
Especially children. Yes.
Because they will. They will
Yeah.
go through your things. We
Yes.
all know it. My daughter goes through my purse and I have to stop her from getting candy out of my purse. And, if I had a gun in there just willy nilly, she would be playing with it because they don't know.
no, they don't know. Yeah, but the people who are carrying out these acts of violence, obviously, they do. One
Yeah.
of the questions I want to pose to you guys is the responsibility how much of the responsibility lies with media, social media, and traditional media.
Hmm.
So, for instance, just to frame it more, there's another statistic: 93% of school shooters plan their attack in advance.
Hmm.
Yes.
Saw
Hmm.
the case of Texas. He posted
Yes.
on, was it Facebook? Was it
I
Facebook?
think it was Facebook. Yes.
That he was going to shoot his grandmother, and then he posted that he shot his grandmother, and then I'm going to shoot up his elementary school, and then of course he shoots up an elementary school. What is the responsibility of people who are Facebook friends with him, of Facebook as an organization? What happens when they see that? Like, what is supposed to happen when they see these posts?
I
See
didn't even
something,
hear
say
about that.
something.
See something, say something.
See
Yeah,
something.
Well,
yeah,
we have AI for a reason. So there's the
Exactly. I was going to
AI.
say that. I was going
Yeah.
to say that. The police
Yeah.
should be alerted automatically. I'm
Yeah.
sure
right.
they can do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely sure it's possible.
I think a lot of schools actually have software where it monitors their students on social.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't know if that school uses it, but there are some applications where you, or if you're on a school computer, or if you go to that school, they monitor your social to make
Hmm.
sure that you don't have curse words, racism, things of that nature that are threatening. And
Bullying.
it
Hmm.
automatically alerts the teachers,
Okay.
the parents,
Yeah.
and law enforcement.
Yeah.
So maybe there needs to be an investment in more things like that to kind
Yeah.
of police conversations and things like that. Like, hey man, I got a gun for the
I agree.
weekend.
I
Like
agree.
those are red flags that, as a parent, I would want to know.
Hmm.
And as teachers and law enforcement, I think they should be alerted to. But then you could have the reverse where there is too much police as part of that. So now it's about striking a balance with that.
Right.
Well, when you hear about the murders in Buffalo a couple weeks ago, he had a manifesto, and
Yeah,
apparently for a year this was all over social media, and it was not a surprise. So
Yeah.
to your point, Barika, at what point do you start holding people accountable? And
yeah,
I personally think companies need to be held accountable. If you're pushing software out there, you're responsible for how people can use your software.
yeah,
Because
Yeah.
they put walls up, they put boundaries up on how they want you to use your software.
Right. Right.
Take some
Right.
accountability on how it can be malused.
Yeah. And
mhm,
Facebook has been under fire for this in the past.
Absolutely.
yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Haven't heard much about it since, but there's so much discussion, investigation right now with, how fast the police or law enforcement were able to
yeah,
breach
Respond.
the,
Yeah.
the room, the classroom. So there's so much going on, a lot of discussion. But my guess is that yes, Facebook will be bought into that discussion, or social media in
In
general.
general. Yeah.
One of the articles I was reading about media, and I'll see if I can find it, was about, not, I don't think they use this word, but glorifying
Yeah.
these guys, or at least putting them in the media, and seeing if that has any impact. So here's: media holds a responsibility in minimizing the impacts of mass shootings. And so it talks
mm.
about, what the media's responsibility should be. And it's true. It's true.
I
Well,
mean,
even when you think about, oh, sorry, I was going to
go
say
ahead.
even live streaming, but the
Mm,
live streaming of the murders 2 weeks ago, like
Yeah,
Right.
it's not the first
Right.
time something like that has been live streamed in Australia. Like it's, at what point are we finally going to hold people accountable?
I
but
agree.
they
And
do. They
people
break them,
thinking,
don't they? Shut them down when some of these social media giants see someone live streaming. I thought I saw that a couple weeks ago. It didn't rise to the occasion of, this type of publicity, but I thought I read somewhere where someone was live streaming something, and the company shut it down. Don't they
no
have that
idea.
capability?
They do have the capability, but how fast is it?
yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah,
yeah. Like how many people have died before it goes
Before,
live? Yeah,
yeah. No, it's
and is
no.
it shut down and then there's another step where authorities are called? Like at what level? What's
Right.
the
Right.
right.
process
Right.
behind
Right.
it?
Well,
Maybe it shouldn't get to the point of live streaming. Maybe the minute somebody posts that they have guns and they're thinking of killing somebody, like that's when ban their access, report this to the police. Maybe that's a way of preventing it getting to the live streaming, because the point is these people many times do post what they're planning on
Mhm.
doing, and
Yeah,
nobody pays any attention. That's disturbing. The first thing is we're all desensitized. because a lot of people say and do things on social media just for the attention. So
Yeah.
we're like, people are probably dismissing this. Oh, yeah, right. You're not going to do that. That's dangerous, right? And so maybe sometimes it is for attention, but for the people who really are planning to do these horrific things, maybe at that point, that is where they need to be stopped. I mean, they block you for all types of things, right? So
Yeah.
Yep.
just for a
Yep.
limited time,
Words.
I set up a Facebook ad and I forget to check a box, my account is shut down. So
Yep.
if they can do that for me,
Yeah.
and I'm not hurting anybody, they can intervene when somebody's saying, I'm going to shoot my grandmother. I'm sorry. Like, we
Absolutely.
just have to, as a people, not be so, accommodating. Well, maybe they shouldn't do this. No, they should not. You know what I'm saying? Like, where does it
Yeah.
end?
Yes.
Yeah. And
At
to
what
your
Yeah.
point,
point
Patia.
do we get
Yeah.
tired of this and say, no, enough is enough? Like, it's
And
just
to
too
your
much.
point, even taking pictures and posing with pictures of guns and
Exactly.
why is that why is that even something that we
Exactly.
want to glorify,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
So,
We have comments from our audience that I think we should like really like take
Sure.
on to. So Cheryl says, I believe it comes down to what politicians are willing to accept. They seem
mhm.
to be willing to accept more dead children in order for their constituents and lobbyists to keep their guns. I
Mm.
agree.
Yep.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. And that's why I'm saying they're okay with making sure that you have them,
Mhm.
but keeping them alive is not as important as my guns because
Yeah.
they're giving me more money. I don't understand. Like, why
I
are you keeping them alive if you're gonna kill them in the end?
Yeah, I wonder what I don't know. Yeah, when they go home at night, like what do they are they I don't know, do they have a conscience? Do they understand what their decisions are doing? And not just the political folks and politicians, but anybody
Anybody who's
anybody
not doing
decision
something about this, who can, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
Who can do
exactly.
something about it. So, ladies, let's talk about how this is affecting the children. I mean, we know how as adults it's affecting all of us. Like this week, I've been a mess. But
Mhm.
for the children who lived, who saw their classmates murdered in front of them, they're never going to be okay. I'm sorry.
No.
Anybody who experiences this, right?
Yep.
And then what about our children who are experiencing this in the news and hearing conversations? They're not going to want to go to school. And
Yeah.
how do you deal with that as a parent? How do you reassure them that they're going to be okay? Because
Yeah.
we really don't know. I mean, again, of course, certain part of the countries, seems to be more prone to this sort of thing, but who knows,
Yeah.
right? It's just I wanted to share some tips that my daughter's school sent around earlier today, ways to talk to young children about this situation because clearly they're not deaf, they're not blind. Even if you try to hide it from them, they may go to school and somebody else may mention it. So I just thought that I would share that for anybody who has children in general, but especially young children, because for them it's extra traumatizing. So the first tip was to try to avoid allowing children below middle school to watch the news because those images will stay with them
Mm.
and they don't completely understand what's going on, and of course the fear factor, it's very traumatizing.
Mm.
The second thing would be that if your children are very young and do not know what happened yet, try to keep it that way. There's absolutely no need to bring this up
Mm.
because in some cases ignorance is bliss,
Mm.
Yep.
right? So if your kids aren't aware, if they're really young, 2, 3, there's no reason to tell them about this. Now, if they are aware, ask them what they know, right? What is concerning them? And then try your best to deal with those specific situations, but then don't add to it because once you add to it, that's going to be extra traumatic. And
Mm.
then this fourth point, I mean, I get it, but as we're sitting here talking about it and all of the stats that I'm hearing, right? This kind of is not that true. While these incidents are horrific, they're rare. Well, not so much based on the stats that I heard in this show. So, as a parent, like I want to reassure my child that school is a safe place, but, in doing so, I don't really believe it myself. So, how do we all cope with this? It's very mentally taxing.
Mhm.
But I
Yep.
just think, these were good tips to share for anyone who's struggling with having this conversation with their children, especially very young children.
Yeah, great tips. Great tips, Katia. Thank you. And in the general sense, I mean, we're talking about some of the statistics, of course, that we've been researching. I think it is still, on the grand scheme, it's still a rare
Yeah.
occurrence, but it is happening
Way
too
too
much,
much.
way
Yes.
Yeah.
too much, way too
And
much.
once is too much,
Yeah.
Right.
because it's something that is completely preventable, as other countries have showcased that it can be
Yes.
done. But
Yes.
we are not taking the initiative to figure out the problem on our side.
Yeah.
And I think it's Steve Kerr. I have to use his words again. Like, when are we going to do something? It's happened. It's happened too much.
It's
You know.
happened too much. Let's put these Facebook comments up. There are a couple of Facebook comments which I want to make sure we get out there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I saw a clip today on Facebook where a young child was at a gun fair and he was demonstrating how to use the gun. He was around 5-year-olds and the adult was cheering him on. Great job.
Oh my God.
Mm,
See, that is part of individuals being irresponsible.
Hmm.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and it probably happens more than we know, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
that image was captured and someone saw, but my guess is, especially in parts of the country, including Texas, and my daughter lives in Texas, so I know a little bit about Texas, but there's certainly a lot of states where you are going to see
Mm-hmm.
images like that and kids exposed to guns at a very young age. It comes down to the responsibility of the parents. How are you teaching that child? What are you teaching that child?
Right.
If you're comfortable in introducing gun,
At
a gun,
5.
right, to a 5-year-old, hopefully, let's pray that you are doing it responsibly. Let's pray
Yeah.
you're doing it
Right.
responsibly.
There's another great tip. Yeah, there we go. From Kids Help Phone, encourage them to speak, listen, and reassure. Don't let them bottle it up for sure. Just be there and listen because their feelings are valid. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Cheryl. That's
Thank
fantastic.
you so much. That's a great tip.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
see we're at the end.
Yeah.
My goodness, time is flying.
Time
Yeah.
has flown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has. So we definitely want to thank everyone for being here and joining us. Hopefully, this provided some comfort just talking and you guys sharing your thoughts and listening to our discussion. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we're each parents. We have kids. This is continues to be so devastating on so many levels to so many people. And
Mm-hmm.
let's stay as that last comment, and we've been saying, let's keep communication open. I do think talking about it helps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes.
To keep it bottled up with kids, even as the last commenter said, with kids, let them express themselves. Your kids, you're each of your kids are younger than my kids. So
Right.
yeah, so but I don't think it matters, right? What
It doesn't-
age kids
No.
are. My
no, I think we're all affected.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
absolutely.
We're all
Yes.
affected.
We're
We're all
all
connected in that aspect.
we are. So yeah, so thank you for being here, ladies. Yeah, let's hope that we don't have to do this again
Yeah.
ever, but certainly no time soon, but ever, because this is not the world. This is not the country of the world. We want to continue seeing things like this happen, and it just isn't.
Right.
It just
Yeah.
isn't.
Absolutely.
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 All right. So again, thank you all for being here for the special edition
Yes.
of Brain Rewind Live. We will see you right back here in 2 weeks. I don't even know what date 2 weeks
In
is.
Two
2 weeks.
weeks.
What is it? June? I don't even know. What is today's date? June
It will be June 9th.
June 9th.
June 9th. Okay, June 9th. We will be back here on June 9th, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific time. We look forward to seeing you all. Then thanks so much. Be well, stay safe.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you.
Have a good
Stay
evening.
safe.
Take care.